Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the horizon's edge, watching the stars through the main window. He had been exploring space for 10 years, and the sight still amazed him. His crew was good people. Lisa Martinez, his science officer, was smart and always curious about new things. Ryan Cooper, his security chief, was a tough former soldier who kept everyone safe. They were mapping new star systems when the message came through. Admiral Susan Blake appeared on the screen, her face serious and worried. Jake had never seen her look so scared. "Jake, we have a problem," she said. "All our colonies in the Kepler sector have stopped talking to us. 17 worlds, over 4 million people. They're just gone silent." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Kepler sector was one of humanity's most successful areas. New Portland alone had 500,000 colonists. Good people with families, children, dreams. What was the last message? Lisa asked, stepping closer to the screen. "From New Portland. They said something about silver ships and that they're not stopping." "Then nothing." Ryan crossed his arms. "Could be equipment failure, solar flares. Lots of things can cut communications." Admiral Blake shook her head. "We thought so too. But it's been 3 weeks. Every colony, every station, every ship in that sector, all quiet." Jake studied the Admiral's face. "She was hiding something. What aren't you telling us?" "The Coalition knows about it. We asked for help. They said they had no idea what happened. They told us not to investigate. Said it was probably just technical problems, and we should wait." Lisa frowned. "That doesn't sound right. The Coalition always helps with missing colonies." "That's what worries me," Blake said. "Jake, I need you to go there. Quietly. Find out what happened to our people." The trip to the Kepler sector took 5 days. Jake's crew was quiet during the journey. Everyone knew something was very wrong. When they reached New Portland, what they found made Ryan curse, and Lisa gasped that the planet was empty. Not destroyed, but empty. The cities were gone, turned into strange patterns of gray ash. The patterns were perfect circles and straight lines, like someone had drawn them with a ruler. The orbital stations were still there, floating in space, but when they docked, they found nothing. No people, no bodies, no signs of fighting, just empty rooms and corridors. "This is impossible," Lisa said as they walked through the main station. "Where is everyone?" Jake checked his scanner. "Life support is still running. Food in the cafeteria is still fresh. But no people." They landed on the planet and walked through what used to be the capital city. The ash patterns were everywhere, covering miles of ground. Lisa knelt down and took samples while Ryan kept watch. "Jake, look at this," Lisa called. She was studying her scanner, her face pale. "These patterns aren't random. They're organized. Efficient. Someone harvested everything on this planet." "Harvested?" Jake asked. "Like farming. They took every plant, every animal, every person. Then they arranged the remains in these patterns. It's like they were organizing their their crop." Ryan found something else disturbing. The defense systems were turned off from the inside. Someone gave the attackers the access codes. They visited 6 more dead worlds. All the same. Perfect ash patterns, empty stations, defense systems disabled from within. It was like a nightmare that repeated itself over and over. On the research station around New Geneva, they found their first real clue. Hidden in the computers was a secret recording made by Dr. Kevin Walsh, the station director. The recording showed meetings between Coalition representatives and unknown figures in silver suits. Jake played the recording for his crew. The Coalition officials were talking about the human problem and necessary harvesting. They spoke about humans like they were discussing crops or livestock. "We've been studying them for 50 years, one Coalition official said. "They grow too fast, spread too far. They don't stay in their place like other species. The Vector are ready, replied a figure in a silver suit. They will harvest efficiently. No one will know it was us. Lisa's hands shook as she listened. The Vector are supposed to be extinct. The Coalition told us they died out 1,000 years ago. Looks like they lied, Ryan said grimly. The final recording was Dr. Walsh speaking directly to the camera. Silver ships were approaching his station. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. If anyone finds this, you need to know the truth. The Coalition has been planning this for decades. They've been studying our colonies, learning our weaknesses. The silver ships belong to the Vector. The Coalition kept them alive as a weapon. They use them to eliminate species that become too successful, too independent. The recording showed the view outside the station. Dozens of silver ships, sleek and deadly, surrounded the facility. They're not just killing us, Walsh continued. They're erasing us. Every human colony, every trace that we ever existed. They've done this before to other species. We're not the first, and we won't be the last unless someone stops them. The recording ended as the silver ships opened fire. Jake and his crew sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Ryan spoke. So our allies, the ones we've trusted for 100 years, have been planning to kill us all along. It's worse than that, Lisa said. They've been practicing, testing, learning how to do it efficiently. Those patterns on the planets, the way everything was organized. They've done this many times before. Jake's communicator buzzed. It was a message from the Coalition flagship. Admiral Zethkri, the Coalition's military commander, appeared on the screen. He was an Altarian, tall and elegant, with the kind of calm voice that had negotiated peace treaties for decades. Captain Morrison, I heard about the tragic loss of your colonies. The Coalition offers our deepest sympathy for this mysterious attack. We believe it would be wise for Earth to move its remaining colonies to safer areas, under our protection, of course. Jake stared at the screen. The alien's words were perfect, his expression concerned and helpful. But now Jake knew the truth. This was the face of humanity's executioner, offering comfort while planning their next move. Thank you for your concern, Admiral, Jake replied carefully. We'll consider your offer. After the transmission ended, Jake turned to his crew. They were the only ones who knew the truth. Earth's government still thought they were dealing with an unknown enemy. The Coalition's deception was so complete that even Admiral Blake suspected nothing. What do we do? Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the dead world below them. Somewhere down there, in those perfect ash patterns, were the remains of 4 million. People who had trusted the Coalition to keep them safe. We go home, he said. We tell Earth what really happened here. And then we prepare for war. The Horizon's Edge turned away from the dead world and jumped to hyperspace, carrying the terrible knowledge that would change everything. Behind them, the silver ships watched from the shadows, already planning their next harvest. 3 weeks had passed since Jake Morrison returned to Earth with the terrible truth. Admiral Blake listened to the recordings, watched the evidence, and her face grew darker with each revelation. She had served in the military for 30 years, but nothing had prepared her for this kind of betrayal. How many people know about this? She asked Jake. Just my crew and now you. We haven't told anyone else. Blake nodded. Good, we need time to prepare. The Coalition thinks we still trust them. That gives us an advantage. She authorized a secret mission. Jake would take the Horizon's Edge back into space, but this time with a larger team. Commander Amy Rodriguez joined them, bringing specialists trained in intelligence work and alien technology. Amy was Earth's best analyst, known for solving impossible puzzles. We need to find where the Vector are hiding, Amy explained to the crew. The Coalition must have bases somewhere, secret places where they keep their weapon. Using new stealth technology, they followed a Coalition supply ship through hyperspace. The ship led them to a hidden location in the Void Nebula, a dangerous area of space filled with radiation storms. According to official records, nothing could survive there. They were wrong. Hidden in the nebula was a massive space station, bigger than any human city. It was crawling with ships in activity. Through their telescopes, they could see coalition personnel from different species working together. But most shocking of all were the silver ships docked at the station. Hundreds of them. "My God," Lisa whispered. "Look at the size of that place." They could launch an attack on any world in the galaxy from there. Ryan studied the tactical readings. Those aren't just warships. Some of those structures look like storage facilities. They're keeping something big in there. Amy worked on breaking into the station's computer systems. It took her 6 hours, but she finally cracked their security. What she found made everyone on the bridge feel sick. The station was called Processing Center Alpha. It contained detailed plans for eliminating not just humanity, but dozens of other species throughout history. Files showed that the Coalition had been doing this for over 1,000 years. Whenever a species became too successful or too independent, they were marked for harvesting. "Look at this," Amy said, bringing up species profiles on the main screen. The Zephyrians were eliminated 400 years ago. The Coalition said they died from a plague. The Christian Empire vanished 2 centuries ago. Official story was civil war. But here are the real records. They were all harvested by the Vector. Jake felt anger building in his chest. How many species have they murdered? According to these files, 47 different races have been completely wiped out. And they're all listed as successful operations. But the worst discovery was yet to come. Deep in the station's storage areas, they found something that made Ryan curse loudly. Massive chambers filled with stasis pods. Inside the pods were humans, thousands of them. "These are colonists from the outer worlds," Lisa said, checking the medical readings. "They're alive, but barely. The Coalition has been taking people for years, using them for experiments." Amy accessed more files. The Coalition had been testing biological weapons on the captured humans. Diseases designed specifically to kill humans faster and more efficiently. They were planning to release these weapons on Earth before their final attack. "They're not just going to destroy us," she said quietly. "They're going to make us suffer first." Jake studied the layout of the facility. "We could try to save them. Get them out of there." Ryan shook his head. "Look at the medical readings, Jake. Most of them are too weak to survive transport. And if we try to evacuate them, we'll alert the Coalition to our presence. They'll attack Earth immediately." Amy made the hardest decision of her life. "We have to leave them. The information we've gathered is too important. If we lose it, Earth dies." They planted explosive charges throughout the facility. It was the only mercy they could give to the people in the stasis pods. A quick death was better than being used as weapons against their own families. As they prepared to leave, Jake intercepted an urgent transmission from the Coalition High Council. The message was for Admiral Zethgri, and it contained new orders that made Jake's blood run cold. The timeline for the Human Pacification Protocol had been moved up. Earth would be attacked in 30 days. "Why the rush?" Lisa asked. Amy decoded more of the transmission. "They know. Somehow they suspect that we've learned the truth. They're not taking any chances." The message revealed the full scope of the Coalition's plan. Ships from all 17 member species were moving toward Earth. It wasn't going to be a battle. It was going to be complete extermination. Every human world, every space station, every ship, nothing would be left alive. But there was more. The Coalition had been preparing for the possibility that humans might fight back. They had positioned antimatter bombs around Earth's solar system. If the war went badly for them, they would detonate the bombs and destroy everything. It's a dead man's switch, Ryan realized. If we kill their leaders, Earth dies anyway. The horizon's edge raced back toward Earth at maximum speed. Behind them, the hidden facility exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The thousands of humans in the stasis pods were finally free, but their freedom had come at the cost of their lives. When they reached Earth, they found the planet already preparing for war. Other human colonies had been attacked while they were gone. The coalition wasn't being subtle anymore. They were openly destroying human settlements, claiming it was necessary to stop the spread of human aggression. Admiral Blake had been replaced by General Patricia Hayes, a tough military commander who had spent her career planning for the worst possible scenarios. She listened to Jake's report without emotion, but her hands clenched into fists when she heard about the stasis pods. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Less than 30 days before the main attack," Amy replied. "But they're already hitting our outer colonies. It started." General Hayes activated Protocol 7, a secret plan that had been developed in case the coalition ever turned against humanity. The plan was simple and brutal. If humanity was going to die, they would take as many enemies with them as possible. "They want to exterminate us," Hayes said to her senior staff. "They think we'll beg for mercy like the other species they've killed. They're wrong. We're going to show them what humans do when we're cornered." Hidden weapons were activated throughout human space. Secret bases that the coalition knew nothing about came online. Soldiers who had been training in secret for years received their final orders. The coalition had made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would fight like every other species they had eliminated, desperately, defensively, hoping for survival. Instead, humanity chose a different path. If they were going to die, they would make sure the coalition died with them. No mercy, no surrender, no negotiations. Just war until one side was completely destroyed. The silver ships were coming, but this time they would find humanity ready for them. The harvest was about to begin, but the coalition would discover that humans were not sheep to be quietly slaughtered. They were wolves, and wolves fight back. The war began with fire and screams across 12 human worlds. Coalition forces attacked without warning, their silver ships dropping from hyperspace like deadly rain. But this time, something was different. The attacks weren't going as planned. On New Berlin, humanity's main military research world, the experimental shield generators held against the bombardment. The garrison fought back with weapons the coalition had never seen before. Energy cannons that could punch through Vector armor. Missiles that hunted their targets across star systems. For the first time in 1,000 years, the coalition's perfect harvest was failing. General Patricia Hayes stood in Earth's war room, watching the battle reports stream in. Her face was stone, but her eyes burned with cold anger. Colonel Danny Phillips, her chief of staff, brought her the latest intelligence. New Berlin held for 6 hours before the shields failed, he reported. But they transmitted everything. Ship designs, weapon specifications, battle tactics. "We know how they fight now," Haas nodded. "Good. Activate all Protocol 7 assets. It's time to show them what we've been building." Across human space, hidden bases came online. Weapons that had been secretly developed for years were finally revealed. Project Prometheus was the most terrible of all. Antimatter devices powerful, enough to destroy entire star systems. Each one was a miniature sun, contained in a shell no bigger than a human fist. Jake Morrison and his crew received new orders. They were to take the horizon's edge deep into coalition space and deliver the first Prometheus device to its target. The mission was simple: destroy the coalition's capital world and show them that humanity could strike back. "This is mass murder," Lisa said quietly as they prepared for departure. "There are billions of innocent people on that planet." Ryan checked his weapons for the 100th time. "They killed our innocents first. Our children, our families. They started this war." Amy Rodriguez studied the intelligence reports. The coalition made this choice when they decided to exterminate us. They could have left us alone. They could have tried to negotiate. Instead, they chose genocide. The journey to Altair Prime took 8 days. During the trip, they intercepted coalition broadcasts. The alien government was telling their people that humans had gone insane, that they were spreading a disease of violence throughout the galaxy. The coalition claimed they were protecting civilization by eliminating the human threat. Same lies they've been telling for 1,000 years, Amy observed. Every species they've killed was described as dangerous, violent, uncontrollable. Jake listened to the broadcasts and felt something cold settle in his chest. The coalition wasn't just trying to kill humanity. They were trying to justify it. They wanted to believe they were the good guys, even while committing genocide. When they reached Altair Prime, the planet was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, gleaming cities that sparkled like jewels. Home to 4 billion Altarians who had no idea their government was planning to exterminate an entire species. The Prometheus device was ready. One touch of a button, and the planet would become a star for 30 seconds before collapsing into ash. Jake's hand hovered over the trigger. "Captain," Lisa said softly, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface." The message was from Altarian civilians. Families with children, teachers, doctors, ordinary people who just wanted to live their lives in peace. They were begging for mercy, saying they had no knowledge of their government's crimes. "Please," one young Altarian mother said, holding her child. "We don't know what our leaders have done. We don't want war. We just want our children to be safe." Jake felt his finger freeze on the trigger. These people were innocent. They were just like the human families on New Portland, on New Geneva, on all the worlds that had been harvested. But then he remembered Dr. Walsh's final words. The coalition had shown no mercy to human children. They had processed them like crops, turned them into ash patterns on dead worlds. The innocent had already died, screaming for help that never came. "I'm sorry," Jake whispered, thinking of the Altarian families below. But they should have chosen better leaders. The Prometheus device detonated. Altair Prime became a brief, brilliant star that could be seen from 100 worlds. 4 billion lives ended in an instant. The coalition's capital, the heart of their 1,000-year empire, was gone. The shockwave from the explosion rippled across coalition space. Within hours, 3 species announced they were withdrawing from the coalition. The Hegemony, the Silk Road Collective, and the Twilight Syndicate all sent urgent messages to Earth, begging for separate peace treaties, but General Hayes had no interest in peace. She appeared on broadcasts throughout the galaxy, her message simple and terrifying. "The coalition taught us that mercy is weakness. They showed us that negotiations are lies. They proved that the only way to be safe is to eliminate your enemies. Completely. We learned those lessons well. The war became something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity didn't fight to win territory or resources. They fought to destroy. Every coalition world was a target. Every coalition leader was marked for death. There would be no prisoners, no mercy, no quarter given. The Battle of Vega Station lasted 3 days. Coalition forces outnumbered the human fleet 10 to 1, but the humans had advantages their enemies couldn't understand. They weren't fighting for conquest. They were fighting for extinction, their own or their enemies. That made them more dangerous than any weapon. Commander Rodriguez led the assault on the station's command center. The coalition officers she captured begged for their lives, promising to end the war if she would spare them. "Where was this mercy when you were harvesting our children?" she asked before executing them all. The coalition tried one last desperate move. They sent a message to Earth, broadcast on all frequencies, showing their civilians fleeing their homeworlds in terror. The message was simple: stop the attacks, and they would provide full reparations for the human colonies they had destroyed. General Hayes' response was broadcast. to every world in the galaxy. You had your chance for mercy when you slaughtered our families. You chose war. Now you'll get war until there's nothing left of either of us. But the Coalition had one final weapon. Deep in their most secret facilities, they possessed void engines, ancient technology from the extinct progenitor race. These weapons could destroy entire star systems by destabilizing the local space-time continuum. The Coalition's plan was simple. If they couldn't defeat humanity conventionally, they would use the void engines to destroy Earth's sun. The explosion would kill every human in the solar system and send a message to the galaxy that the Coalition was still in control. Intelligence reports reached Earth just as the Coalition began powering up their ultimate weapon. The void engines were located in the ruins of the progenitor homeworld. Protected by the largest fleet the Coalition had ever assembled, Jake Morrison received his final mission. Take the Horizon's Edge to the progenitor homeworld and stop the void engines from firing. The mission was suicide. His ship couldn't possibly survive against the Coalition's entire remaining fleet. "We're not coming back from this one," he told his crew. Lisa smiled sadly. "At least we'll go down fighting." Ryan loaded the last of their ammunition. Better than letting them win. Amy finished her calculations. If we can destabilize the void engine while it's charging, the explosion will take out their entire fleet. And probably half the system. The Horizon's Edge jumped to hyperspace one final time, carrying the last hope of humanity toward a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Behind them, Earth prepared for the end of everything. The war had become exactly what the Coalition feared most, a fight to the death with no possibility of surrender. Only one species would survive to see the dawn of a new age. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace into hell. The progenitor homeworld hung before them like a broken jewel, its surface covered in ancient ruins and deadly Coalition ships. Thousands of vessels surrounded the planet, protecting the void engines that could destroy Earth's sun. Jake Morrison looked at his crew one last time. Lisa Martinez was calm, running final checks on their weapons. Ryan Cooper was loading ammunition, his face set with grim determination. Amy Rodriguez was analyzing the enemy fleet, looking for any weakness they could exploit. "This is it," Jake sighed. "Last chance to change your minds." "We're with you, Captain," Lisa replied, "all the way to the end." The Coalition fleet opened fire as soon as they detected the human ship. Energy beams and missiles filled space like a deadly storm. The Horizon's Edge dove through the attack, its shields flaring as enemy fire struck home. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Ryan reported. "We're losing atmosphere." "Keep us together for 10 more minutes, Jake said. "That's all we need." On the planet's surface, the void engines were charging. Ancient progenitor technology hummed with power that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. Admiral Zethkri stood in the control chamber, watching the energy levels rise. The Altarian commander was no longer the smooth diplomat he had once pretended to be. His elegant uniform was torn, his calm voice replaced by the snarl of a fanatic. The destruction of his homeworld had broken something inside him. 30 minutes until the void engines reach full power, his aide reported. "Good," Zethkri said. "Then we will end this madness once and for all. Better that the galaxy burn than allow human chaos to spread." The Horizon's Edge fought its way through the Coalition fleet, taking heavy damage with each passing moment. Their shields failed, their weapons overheated, and smoke filled the corridors. But Jake kept the ship moving toward the planet. "Why aren't they running?" one Coalition captain asked as he watched the human ship refuse to retreat. "Because they're insane," his first officer replied. "That's what makes them so dangerous." Amy discovered something in the ancient progenitor ruins that changed everything. Hidden in the deepest archives were records of the original war that had destroyed this civilization. The progenitors hadn't been killed by an unknown enemy. They had been destroyed by an alliance of younger species who feared their advancement. "The Coalition has been doing this for millions of years," she told Jake over the com. "Every time a species becomes too advanced, too independent, they destroy them. The progenitors, the ancients, dozens of others. It's an endless cycle." "Then we end the cycle here," Jake replied. The ship shuddered as more enemy fire struck home. They were running out of time. The void engines were almost ready to fire, and their ship was falling apart around them. Ryan led a desperate boarding party to the planet's surface while Jake and Lisa kept the ship in the fight. The former Marine and his team fought through. Coalition defenders, pushing deeper into the ancient ruins where the void engines waited. In the control chamber, Admiral Zethkri watched the human assault with something like admiration. These creatures refused to surrender even when facing certain death. It was exactly the kind of unpredictable behavior that made them so dangerous. "You cannot be reasoned with," he said to himself. "Cannot be controlled. Cannot be trusted to. Stay in your place. Your species is an infection that spreads chaos wherever it goes." Ryan burst into the control chamber with the last of his team. Half his soldiers were dead and the rest were wounded, but they had made it. The security chief faced the Coalition admiral across the room full of ancient technology. "It's over," Ryan said, raising his weapon. Zethkri smiled coldly. "No, human. It's just beginning. The void engines are ready to fire. Your son will die, and with it, your entire species. The galaxy will finally be safe from your madness." The Altarian's hand moved toward the activation switch. Ryan fired, but he was too late. The Admiral's finger touched the control, and the void engines began their final sequence. Ancient technology that had slept for millions of years came alive with terrible purpose. Energy that could unmake stars began to build in the massive chambers beneath the planet's surface. The void engines would fire in 60 seconds, sending a wave of destruction across space that would reach Earth-Sun in hours. But Jake Morrison had one last card to play. The Horizon's edge might be dying, but its antimatter reactor was still intact. He set course for the planet's surface, aiming directly for the void engine complex. "Jake, what are you doing?" Lisa asked. "Ending this war the only way we can," he replied. "If we destabilize the void engines while they're firing, the explosion will destroy everything in this system, including us. That's suicide. So is letting them destroy Earth." The ship plunged through the planet's atmosphere like a falling star. Coalition forces tried to stop them, but it was too late. The Horizon's edge struck the main void engine chamber just as Jake triggered their reactor overload. The explosion that followed was visible from 3 star systems away. The void engines, the progenitor homeworld, the Coalition fleet, and Jake Morrison's ship all vanished in a ball of fire that briefly outshone the local sun. Admiral Zethkri's last words, spoken into the growing light, were simple: "You win." But victory came at a terrible price. The war had lasted 2 years and cost billions of lives on both sides. Entire star systems were radioactive wastelands. The Coalition was destroyed, its member species scattered and broken. Humanity survived, but barely. Earth was damaged most. Of the colonies were destroyed, and the survivors faced a galaxy in ruins. General Hayes stood in the wreckage of the Coalition's former capital, surrounded by the ashes of 2 civilizations. "What do we do now?" Colonel Phillips asked. Hayes looked at the ruins around them. Somewhere in this devastation were the remains of children from a dozen different species. Innocent lives lost in a war that should never have happened. "We rebuild," she said, "but not the old way. No more coalitions based on fear. No more cycles of genocide. We do something new." The few surviving Coalition species sent ambassadors to Earth, expecting to be enslaved or exterminated. Instead, they found something unprecedented in galactic history: forgiveness. "We won't become what you were," Hayes told them. We won't rule through fear or eliminate species that become too successful. The old cycle ends here. It took decades to build the new galactic civilization. Humans worked alongside former enemies, creating something based on cooperation instead of domination. It was fragile, this new peace, built on the ashes of the old order. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. When you teach a species that mercy is weakness, you shouldn't be surprised when they show you none. But perhaps, in the silence after the storm, there was still room for hope. Jake Morrison and his crew were remembered as heroes, the ones who broke the cycle of violence that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Their sacrifice had bought something precious, a future where species could grow and prosper without fear of genocide. The war was over. The harvest had ended. And for the first time in galactic history, the future was truly free.